this episode went in one ear and out the other. I'm gonna have a very hard time.
I feel like I'm a little bit more positive on it than you guys were when we were watching it.
In general, I was having a nice time watching it. It just, like, we had to take a break in the middle because the dog rolled in poop.
There was a poop problem.
And so she had to get washed because she was covered in poop. And then I
tarnished the whole viewing experience.
No, so then when we got, like, back into it, I was like, well, I don't remember anything that happened at the beginning of this episode. So let's see how we can do.
Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is I'm watching The Rings of Power, Season 2, Episode 6.
Where is he? Who is she? Who are you? Who are you?
If you want the TLDR, I think our opinions are going to be the same. I like, on one hand, I feel a duty to come on and talk about this, and there's things that I can talk about, and there's, like, pros and cons. On the other hand, I do feel redundant. Like, I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over and over again.
I'm also white-knuckling these last two episodes.
Well, I enjoyed this one, I think, because we got a little bit of everything, and one of the positives, the elephant in the room is it's too thin. The writing is just too thin. It is like reading Spark Notes or like Cliff Notes. And it's a lot of cliches and a lot of motions. And on top of that, it's a prequel to very well-trodden tropes and well-established story.
Yeah.
So
that is not thin.
Yes. Yeah. And so in that regard, it is frustrating. And I feel a little bit, like, back and forth because we've also spent a lot of time sort of championing the show. And I stand by my assessment that I think this is good for families and young people, young
it's like
children.
People getting into fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
because it's pretty.
There are
stakes.
It still is. I want to give this a award, or I want to give this a point, because this is, off the top of my head, the only show that I have seen of this caliber where I can tell that they did trim the budget, and I do not feel that it's lacking.
No. That
is so difficult, I think, and I think part of it was we trimmed a lot of fat in, like, episode 4, with a lot of walking through the woods.
Yeah, but also, like, I mean, each character has had more outfits this
is still
season.
Very lavish. It's still very luscious. And like I said, and I can tell that they have pulled it in, but I do not find it suffers.
Not in any kind of bad way. And again, I think every single character has had more outfits this season than they all had combined in season 1. Like, Bronwyn did not get out of that outfit the entire season.
I just didn't think that I was going to miss her as much as I do.
Awful.
It's strange.
Because now I feel like we've really, what's his name?
Elendil.
I feel like we've really, Arendir.
Or Arendir.
We've really
he was in this episode.
Him, but he didn't.
He did some of his, like, swoopy breakdancing fighting.
He killed some orcs.
We went into, and the thing is, I'm actually weirdly sort of interested in this Galadriel Adar thing. Apparently it patented me. I just want more romance. Like, I wish they were more charged.
Sure.
Because I feel like this new Adar is playing this with, like, not romance is not the word, but the way he's behaving with her is very. Can you help me?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's something. I think he's doing maybe a little bit more interesting of a job, but I can't say I'm picking up on any vibes between the two.
I feel like there's, like, almost a seduction happening. I feel like there's a lot of, and there should be a seductive quality to the Rings of Power when you think about it. And, they're doing the barest minimum with Anatar and Celebrimbor, and it is working fine.
Yeah.
I could use actual.
Yeah, but because this is the first episode where he is actually, like, made him see something to keep him working. Celebrimbor.
He's like enchanted him.
He has enchanted him so that it looks like everything is peaceful and great outside the tower.
He's been influencing him. We got that, but and Charlie is playing it very seductively and very layered, but I feel like everyone should be in love with him.
Sure.
With Anatar. And it is just like on a 1 to 10 scale of lust, we're at like a 3 max.
Yeah.
And because even the Miradonna, I feel like I wish I cared about her more than I do, because the show is insisting that she's a character, and I feel like it's just so we can kill her in the next episode.
Sure. When Celebrimbor was like, "What's your name?" and she was like, "You don't remember?" and I was like, "Does anyone? Do we?" Because I'm trying so hard not to get attached to her.
You should. There's only 7 of these people that you're working with, but then that's also part of the spell, and so I get that, but it honestly is what this is giving me. If the Lord of the Rings movies are cinema, this is giving me theme park. And I love theme parks.
Sure.
Like, it's giving me a very well done, state-of-the-art bells and whistles theme park, but this feels like the movie you watch before you get on the ride.
Okay.
Or like a really good immersive dark ride,
sure,
but is ultimately just a ride.
Yeah.
It's a facsimile of something.
I'll co-sign that.
Because also another thing that your husband brought up that was really interesting is because we were fighting for our lives in the Numenor section. And Numenor is something that on paper I should be enamored of.
Okay. It's a beautiful place. They seem to have a lovely tradition.
Idyllic.
It's idyllic. It's beautiful. The clothes are cool.
There's a lot of Greek mythology coding.
It's really neat. Like, everyone looks cool. Everyone's happy and, like, fed until recently. But it's just, like, the only characters I care about are Elendil and
Muriel,
the queen. And I like, the daughter sucks.
But the thing is, I want to like her, and I know what they think. I don't actually.
They've gone too far now.
I know what they think they're doing with her.
Yeah.
But it's like the last thing that I want is another like religious zealot, like season 5 of Game of Thrones, like rehash, and on top of that to do it over the course of ultimately 3 or 4 episodes.
That's the thing. And so that's the thing is I do like Elendil and Muriel. However, they are apparently now a love for the ages.
And I wish I felt that.
And we had like one chest touch.
I wish I felt that. Like and I mean they have spent time together, and they have successfully pulled off Queen and General with those 2 characters.
Of course, yes.
They have not pulled off leading man and leading lady.
No, and I mean...
You know what I mean?
Like, I will say, so his name is Lloyd Owen, and he is easily...
He's even hotter
Yeah, he looks beautiful. He looks like he could be a leading man. And her name is Cynthia Adai Robinson, and she is obviously so stunning. But you're right, it's like we haven't done the character work for them to get to a place where it's like, oh yeah, they're so in love. Like, it totally makes sense.
I want to feel that. Like, I want to actually bathe in some of this stuff. Because we are just moving through it at such a clip.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can't actually criticize it because it has given us everything up to and including, you know, the sacrifice to the sea worm. It's like every single beat was hit, but all in all, what was that, like 45 seconds, 2 minutes tops? Like,
okay, so the other thing,
we just plowed through it.
The other thing too is it felt like Pharazôn gaining control of Numenor was like this hard-won fight, and then all of a sudden, the ideals of these people are so fickle. That, like, so the sea worm spit her up, and now it's, oh, Queen Muriel again.
But it's also hard for us as an audience to buy into the conceit because they hate the elves, and they've explained why, but we are watching the elves be awesome.
Yeah.
And so
it's very knife ears coded, where I'm like, I'm sorry, it simply doesn't work. That's the coolest name you could call me, but you're saying it like a slur, like it's gonna hurt my feelings. And so you're right, it's like we're watching the elves be like awesome all the time, and they're like dirty elf, and I'm like, okay.
It was like when you were a kid and other kids would try and intimidate you by clucking like a chicken, and I was like, I don't understand where I'm meant to be embarrassed. You're the one clucking like a chicken.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, You're the one acting like an idiot.
Sorry,
like,
I don't want to jump off the train trestle and you're imitating an animal and I'm weird. A cuckoo-cha! What's the no?
But it just, other than being like, we don't like the elves, like, I wish I felt that. I wish I felt, his daughter's plight. Like, I wish I understood what she saw in Kremen, or Kemen.
Of the boy, or the son, or well, the Pharazon's pissed at him too. He's like, "You've done enough." I thought he was gonna say a slur
and he's
too.
Also just so like father, like son. He's also he's a hypocrite. And again, I know that is authentic, that to the story, the source material, and reality, but I don't want to watch it, especially so wafer thin.
The other thing too is, like, I know that Pharazon was sowing the seeds of discord in season 1. Like, I do know that some of this wasn't so immediate as we're talking about it. Like, I know he did that. But to your point, the daughter, I cannot remember anybody's name right
Aarion.
now. Aarion.
Why I got this one on lock? I have no idea.
So she basically was in a weak point because her brother died, and now then she like fell into the zealotry to like absorb her grief.
But he's just not dead.
Well, they don't.
And
they don't know
that. But
it's annoying. But that's what's so irritating about it too, is it's not even like she's always been this like pious person who gives this much of a shit about everything. This is brand new to what we have been watching, and that's what's very frustrating, because it doesn't even work from like a cultish perspective, because it was too fast. Cults take their time to lure you in.
Do they?
And they act normal for a long time, and then it's like a frog, or like a frog in boiling water. You like, if you raise the temperature slowly, all of a sudden you're doing volleyball at 3 o'clock in the morning, and some fucking yahoo's telling you that you're too fat, and you're like, oh, it must be true. You don't go to a meeting and they're like, okay, time for 3 o'clock in the morning volleyball, and you're like, dope. You have to like ease into shit like that.
Because there was another scene with the dwarves, which I am still enjoying the dwarves, but it was set up. Durin is still losing. King Durin is still losing his mind to the ring. He's still trying to mine way too much.
It's just like so much. I mean, this obviously has to be the like beginning of like Smaug's little gold nest and stuff, but he's just like so greedy. He's trying to get everything. He's tithing everybody to hell and back.
But Prince Durin and Disa are trying to come up with a way to stop it. And so there's this scene where the miners are like going to the place, and Disa's there, and she has this like pop star turnaround moment, and then she like, and it was kind of cool. And he was like, is that supposed to scare us? And she's like, no, this is. And these like bats come flying out. Again, very cool. And then they like ran away scared. But all in all, it took like 2 minutes, and it was just very rudimentary. Like, it was very... there needed to be, for me, I needed to feel more of a sense of cohesion and a sense of I don't know, it just ultimately fell flat. And she was very sort of like, wow, like that's the end of that until next time.
Well, yeah, Durin was like, they're gonna come back, and she was like, no, I know,
but ultimately,
like,
so the bats just scared them.
Yeah, I
just
don't know.
flew in their hair. Like, I don't like what actually was accomplished. Like, okay,
yeah, they put it off for like a day. Basically,
or 20 minutes at that.
Yeah.
Like,
once we get rid of these bats, it's back to it. But the other thing too, which I think we mentioned a couple episodes ago, is not even necessarily frustrating, but it just is kind of like, I know that we are leading up to the Balrog. At this point, I feel like the Balrog is going to be the last shot of the final episode.
Well, it was the last shot of the first season, too.
Yeah, but that's where I kind of feel like we're leading up to, which is, again, fine and great. And while on the one hand, I do think we are really blowing through plot and stuff, and, like, things aren't taking enough time, I'm also at the point where I'm like, well, I know we're just biding time for the Balrog. And I'm like, it's very frustrating storytelling to me. Even though I'm largely enjoying the way all of the actors are playing almost everything. Even the stuff I hate, they're doing a good job.
I think it's serviceable.
Yeah.
I could use a few more choices. I could use a few more people making bold choices.
You know what I'm going to say is I wish Charlie Vickers was doing more. I wish that he was being real queenie about it. That's what I wish.
And because even just like Rory Kinnear is like an actor.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm looking at Tom Bombadil. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's definitely him.
For sure him.
But there is also sort of like okay, what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, so he's taking the stranger to like find his staff, and essentially he basically is like, I need to go help my friends though. Can I go do that and come back? Because he wants to rescue Poppy and Nori. And Tom Bombadil is just like, nope. You have to do it now. If you leave, you can't come back. And he's like, ugh, shit. And so it's just like, okay, I guess, like, who made these rules? Can I speak to them?
Mm-hmm.
Can I Karen my way up to your manager?
Poppy has a boyfriend.
Poppy got kissed?
Who eats lizards for dinner.
I mean,
but also that was weird. I was like, I wanted more things like that.
I sort of assume they all eat lizards for dinner. They were eating snails in season
shell
1,
and all.
Yeah. Well, the stranger was eating the shell. Nori was like, no, and then she's like, okay, fine.
But, yeah, it was fine. Yeah. That woman talked about how the tree was as old as her. She had been tending to it since she was old enough to hold a rake.
Yeah.
And, again, much like your husband said, I'm sure that tree will be dead by the end of next week's episode.
Yeah.
It's fine. Very standard. I didn't actually say the point that he was saying with Numenor was he was like, what his issue was is that when we got Numenor in season 1, it was like a place that our heroes went to.
Yeah, like Galadriel and
Halbrand.
Halbrand were
like,
there.
Stopped there, and then they picked up some people along the way. But now we're back, and it's like trying to hold its own thing, and I just need more substance.
It doesn't bear enough weight because, like you said, like we've only got the 2 characters that we care about. And then
I think we're meant to care about like 7.
No.
And no.
Because the rest of them
I still want to know what the eagle was.
Yeah. That was weird. Regardless, we like the 2 characters. The rest of them didn't step foot in Middle Earth, so they also don't know what the fuck they're talking about with like what went down and how all these people died and everything. And I feel like I don't know if we did already. I think we did. We got to a very like the lady with the son from Jaws moment where everybody was mad at Elendil, and I'm like, everybody volunteered.
I really miss Valendiel.
Yeah.
I really,
even just from last week.
Yeah, I really, like, it was weird to me when it happened. I really wish it didn't happen. I really wish that maybe we thought something had happened.
And then didn't.
And then he could swoop in.
Yeah.
I don't know. It felt like it felt like they had just
scratched the surface.
Earned my attention.
Yeah.
And to off him like that.
I agree.
I do think that I find Anatar, Sauron's plan to be interesting, and it wasn't, I mean, my brain's a little bit turned off watching the show. It wasn't immediately apparent to me that because Adar and the orcs are against Sauron.
Yeah.
And so since they think that he is Halbrand / Anatar, they marched on Region, and they're trying to attack it to get him and like kill him. But that's his plan all along. Yeah. That's like how
Galadriel
he's tricking them into attacking. That's kind of clever. I enjoyed that.
I am having a really hard time with these orcs that have free will. Like, we encountered deserter orcs in this episode. 0 out of 10. I don't... Why are they thinking? Why are they acting on their own?
You want them to be drones.
They are drones! Like, I don't know. I'm just, like, I'm not into it.
I don't think I actually finished. I wish the Galadriel and the Adar thing was working a little bit more because I do want Dark Galadriel. And I know we kind of got that with her and Halbrand in season 1. Although, would it not be funny if she just kept falling in love with and aligning herself with these powerful evil men?
Sure.
And that, again, if it happened, like...
Well, especially because her, like, elf husband is such a nothing burger of a character in the movies.
It would explain her being like, I'm not getting involved because anytime I get involved.
And then if she's like, she goes back, everything's fine after this, and she goes back
some
and
good dick, but it's got bad
and
juju.
she's just like, Elrond, find me your lamest friend and set me up on a blind date. I'll marry him no matter what.
I really, once an accident, two's a coincidence. Yeah. I really wish they were hitting it, and I guess that's it. And I think that ties back to my initial assessment that this is meant for families and younger people.
Yeah.
Because I think I've just seen so much of this type of storytelling that I want, something more.
I wish it was going like one step further.
And my instinct when I'm not getting that is to like, well, then do something funny or do something like weird. And I don't know. I could really, and I mean, there is a precedent for Dark Gladriel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I kind of want to see where that came from. And I don't know that we're gonna get it.
I don't think so.
I feel like we will, but I don't think we're gonna get it the way I want it.
Exactly.
Celebrimbor is still making the rings for men.
He can't really get it to work. There was a whole thing where it's like they had to go petition for more mithril, and King Durin was like, nah. And then he somehow got it anyway.
No, well, I liked that because I didn't see what they were doing, but he was like, get out of here on the horse you rode in on.
Yeah.
And Prince Durin was like, oh, thank God, Dad, you're still in there. And he's like, nah, we're holding out for more. Basically, because he's like, if they go to war, we are the what is it called? Weapon?
Well, yeah, a WMD. Basically.
With like the manufacturers. Yeah. And so he's like, so it's just more money for us. Why would I make a deal now when the price is going to go up? And I mean...
Yeah, okay, why are we blockade running? Yeah.
So I forgot, they've been so focused on the Balrog, I forgot about Smaug. I wonder if we'll get
I don't know if he's like around yet at this point, but that's what I was, when there were just piles and piles and piles of gold and jewels and stuff, I was
like, you want dragons?
That's how you get dragons. Well, and Sauron like summoned a little tiny vision of something there.
There was the Balrog.
Yeah.
We're also in a little bit, it's a trope that I'm annoyed by in fantasy where they'll give you like 3 or 4 solid things, but then that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but stop threatening us with the Balrog.
Right.
I mean, do it. But then also like...
Well, it's like King Durin has to actually take the bridge too far before, he's towing the line right now. He's about to step over it.
But it's sort of the comparison I have like spring-loaded in my brain is Teen Wolf, and it's like part of what made the Kanama in season 2 interesting is it was such a deep cut.
Yeah.
But then the way they talk about it for the whole rest of the series, it's one of 7 options in this world. Right. And it's like, oh, you just only have so many toys in your toy box.
Yeah.
I thought you actually had like found something.
Right.
Like the same with the worm, where I was like, oh, it's just the worm we saw in season 1.
Yeah.
It's not another sea monster. It's like, okay.
And
I mean, I'm fine with it.
It was very Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
It had a lot of tentacles.
That was kind of odd.
Yeah.
I still feel like I'm being really hard on the show. I think possibly because, well, it has a lot to live up to.
Yeah. The movies are so good.
Both to us personally and just in pop culture. And I think some of why I'm so hard on it is because of how good I think it is in other places.
Yeah.
That I really wish all of it was living up to.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is anyone else conflicted?
Yeah.
Because there are people who hate it and there are people who love it. I'm not seeing a lot of people in the middle.
I certainly don't hate it. I just think it's leaning into some very frustrating storytelling.
Well, and I'm getting
avenues.
to the place that if there are going to be 5 seasons, I'm like, the likelihood that we're going to right some of these wrongs is becoming very quickly squashed.
Yeah.
Like, I would have a hard time believing that randomly season 3 would be excellent.
Yeah.
It's possible. Season 3, I've said this many times, season 3 of American Gods was way better than season 2, but it was still for naught.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let us know. And I mean, is anybody also, is anybody just watching this? I mean, there's so much like energy in the air.
Yeah.
It's a very charged time. I mean, does everyone have to have a blood feud with everything? Is anyone just enjoying?
I definitely don't have a blood feud.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just feel like they could be doing it better.
Somehow fandom has gotten very politicized, and it's like,
no, I hate it.
Yeah,
it's a very like, if you like this thing,
you're part of the problem.
Problematic.
You're the enemy.
Then you're bad too. And I'm like, that's just simply not the way it works.
So, okay. We're not entirely sure if we'll be back next week or when it's over. Possibly when it's over. We'll see. You'll see us when you see us.
Yeah.